financial and geopolitical from a frontier. Apologize for my absence. I was in Mombasa on Friday. Yesterday we had some challenges with iMovie, but we're back and good to be here. If you can make it, we'd love to see you at Mindspeak on Saturday at Intercontinental. We serve breakfast from 9:30 and we are dealing with the situation in the banking sector. We've got Habil Olaka, who's the chairman, CEO of Kenya Bankers. We've got the CEO of KCB Bank, Joshua Oigara, and the NIC Bank MD, John Gachora. A deep dive into what's going on and an opportunity to engage with folks who should know some of the answers. If you haven't been to Mindspeak, it's a great function. It's free to attend. Kindly register on the website rich.co.ke so we can keep you in the loop in the future. Home thoughts go back to Prince. I saw this photograph. And, I did actually go and hear him in concert many years ago, that was called. And he was a tour de force. Nelson Mandela featured in a commemorative stamp series to mark Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday. And then that took me to some of his great quotes. When a man is denied the right to live the life he believes in, he has no choice but to become an outlaw. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Nelson Mandela. I am fundamentally an optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun, one's feet moving forward. There were many dark moments when my faith in humanity was sorely tested, but I would not and could not give myself up to despair. That way lies defeat and death. And one of my favorite photographs of this one where he's dancing with some young schoolgirls. There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. And then I like this photograph of Champs-Élysées. After a long wait, Machar has finally arrived in South Sudan's capital, Juba. Let's see what the two of them do and whether they can get Juba back on track. But it's starting as it were, from ground zero. Donald Trump has won presidential primaries in all 5 US states that voted on Tuesday, while Hillary Clinton triumphed in 4 out of 5. So we see going to be head-to-head between Hillary and Donald. Foreign leaders visiting King Salman of Saudi Arabia have noticed there is a large flower display positioned just in front of where the 80-year-old monarch sits. On closer investigation, the visitors realize that the purpose of the flowers is to conceal a computer which acts as a teleprompter. One visiting US delegation meeting with King Salman recently observed a different method of convincing visitors, or at least television viewers watching the encounter, that he can deal with the escalating crises facing Saudi Arabia, that King did not look at the group, but at a giant television screen hanging from the ceiling of the room, on which was appearing prompts. Simon Henderson, the Saudi expert at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, who tells the story, writes that off to one side in the room was an aide who furiously hammered talking points into a keyboard. Of course, King Salman is not the only world leader, past or present, whose inability to cope has been artfully concealed by aides and courtiers. But eyewitness accounts of his incapacity does put in perspective the claim by the White House that President Obama's visit to Saudi Arabia and 2-hour meeting with the king on the 20th of April was cordial and cleared the air after a troubled period in Saudi-US relations. In reality, the missing 28 pages in the 9/11 report on possible high-level Saudi involvement may not be as categorical or as damaging to the kingdom as the fact of their continued non-publication. The secrets that Saudi Arabia has most interest in hiding may be rather different and relate to allegations that between 1995 and 2001, two senior Saudi princes spent hundreds of millions of state funds paying off Osama bin Laden not to make attacks within Saudi Arabia, but leaving him free to do whatever he wanted in the rest of the world. I like these photos by Bandar al-Galoud. This one's of Obama's arrival and meeting with Saudi King Salman. And this one is a photograph of various princes waiting for POTUS and King Salman to finish their bilateral meeting. According to a transcript, President Obama said prosperity and stability in the region are depending on the level of equity the citizens of these countries are treated with. Sectarianism will always be an enemy of peace and prosperity. Ben Rhodes, Obama's national security advisor, reported that King Salman and Obama were engaged in a conversation lasting for more than 2 hours. It has been a very open and honest discussion, according to Rhodes. Rhodes, literally, the American president, said that he expects even more democratic reforms and an improvement of human rights in the Gulf states. DPRK News Service tweeted, US President Obama, crippled by weight of failure, now requires machine technology to perform the basic bodily functions. And then I like this article in the Independent about President Obama and how the president injected modern humor into the White House. From the dinner days, he's made reference to drunk texting and the Hunger Games. He's used the phrase piss off and flirted with even bluer material. Does he have a bucket list for his final year? Well, he quipped at the 2015 dinner, I have something that rhymes with bucket list. Outside the dinner, he's mocked by the New York Times food section on Twitter, respect the NYT but not buying peas and gulag, and sparred with Zach Galifianakis on his culty Between Two Ferns faux talk show, saying that he might not be the first truly post-racial president after all, but Obama is arguably the first postmodern humorist to hold the office. Currency markets, when I checked last, but they move around like anything these days. Euro was at 112.97, dollar index 94.49, Japanese yen 111.13, Swissy 0.9738, the pound 145.70, the Aussie took a big tumble 0.7626, Indian rupee 66.545, South Korean 111.4696, Rial 352.38, Egyptian pound 8.8815. The rand 14.4196. So still markets selling off the dollar for now. The pound was the big mover yesterday. Today it's the Aussie. Joe Weisenthal tweeted, speaking of Brexit, Bloomberg's composite poll tracker shows clear momentum on the Remain side, and that's supportive for sterling. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. 93 is key support, and we're expected to hold above there. Euro dollar 114.50 is key resistance. We're still holding below there. Aussie dollar, have a look at this 3-month chart. You can see there was a big retreat, market pricing in another rate cut. This is what you see when you get a flight path down the Hudson River. Matt Tomlin, Bloomberg, interesting article about renting private jets rather than buying them. And the citation X in flight looked rather handsome. Gold, 1243.50 when I checked last. Crude oil has had a storming run. We're now at $44.48. The constitutional coup, color revolution, 2-step regime change in Brazil is the article. I think this is interesting, the point that's being made. What's important to point out is that the entire plot was set into motion as a result of valuable intelligence that the NSA had gained about Brazil's top company and later weaponized it into a regime change catalyst. Sub-Saharan Africa, very interesting long article by the FT. The big read between hope and despair, optimism surrounding the continent has evaporated with the collapse in commodity prices. It's actually on the website, Rich Wrap-Ups in full. Do take a look. Whatever happened to Africa Rising? Not so long ago, when investors shell-shocked from the 2008 financial crisis were hunting for the next big growth story, the idea of a resurgent Africa took hold. In this version, instead of being the hopeless continent, the title of a notorious Economist magazine cover story in 2000, Africa became the next great investment frontier. Most of its multilateral debt had been forgiven, growth rates had improved since the turn of the century, and for the first time governments were tapping capital markets at low rates. Africa, according to this more hopeful narrative, was less convulsed by violence and run by more sensible leaders who held regular elections and implemented rational economic policies. All this opened up the possibility that it would leapfrog a stage of development by jumping straight from a pre-industrial state to a shiny new digital world. The idea gradually built that Africa was about to become the new Asia. It was, he says, absolutely ridiculous. Talking about the mood swing, the exuberance has now evaporated. Nigeria and South Africa, which together make up more than half of sub-Saharan Africa's GDP, are in deep trouble. I've spoken about this several times. A few notable exceptions, such as Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Ivory Coast. With the exception of Ivory Coast, that group is clustered in East Africa, which is interesting as well. Mozambique and dire straits. You've gone from huge over-exuberance to uber-pessimism without anything much in between, says David Cowan at Citibank. Then talking about the middle-class myth, saying the conviction that there is a growing African middle class which has done most to drive business interest in the continent is equally fragile. Vijay Mahajan helped consolidate Afro-optimism with his 2009 book, Africa Rising. How 900 million African consumers offer more than you think. But Mr. Mahajan, a US-based marketing professor, built his thesis on less than robust advertising classifications of spending power. Many of his middle class was scraping by on a few dollars a day in insecure jobs. Mr. Mahajan sticks to his optimistic account, but admits that the book's iconic title was a concoction of his publisher, Pearson, former owner of the Financial Times. Perhaps the biggest flaw in the middle-class story is that, with a few exceptions, Africa hardly makes anything. Far too many countries. The economic model continues to be to dig stuff out of the ground and sell it to foreign companies. Molet Singh Becky, academic and younger brother of Thabo Mbeki, says Africa is still not yet in the manufacturing age. Talking about Ethiopia being an exception, Nigeria, one country with true scale, saying it's not all bleak. Kenya has been a pioneer in its use of technology and M-Pesa mobile money system. In the end, though, success stories are too rare and progress, both economic and political, too fragile to be confident that Africa has changed decisively. IMF, of course, is being called in left, right and centre, like I said it would. I've largely covered this in a number of articles that I've written, but it's just taking a big sweep and sweeping it all up. And it just took me back to that photograph in Maputo of Africa Rising, Maputo in particular, seem to have got themselves into all kinds of trouble. Bob Diamond's interest in Barclays Africa is confirmed. Africa visual data, top African cities by GDP in 2025. This is a McKinsey image. John Kerry calls for timely election in meeting with Congo's Kabila. Kerry and Kabila held talks on the sidelines of the signing of a global climate pact at the UN on Friday. Congolese opposition groups have accused Kabila, who won disputed elections in 2006 and 2011, of maneuvering to stand for a third term, which is barred by the constitution. Kabila has not commented on this future. Put up a photograph of John Kerry meeting with Javed Zarif, and obviously they have a good rapport. South African all share up 4.67% this year. Dollar rand firm 14.41. Egyptian EGX 30. Very big day yesterday, up 1.85%. It's up 12.57% this year. I wrote a piece about Chase Bank and about KCB, and in that I quoted Andrew Mellon. And this morning, as I was reading through that quote again, I thought to myself, is the Nigerian president a reincarnated Andrew Mellon? He was the United States Secretary of the Treasury during the Great Depression, who advised his president, Herbert Hoover, liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate farmers, liquidate real estate. It will purge the rottenness out of the system. High costs of living will come, and high living will come down. People will work harder, live a more moral life. Values will be adjusted, and enterprising people will pick up from less competent people. Have a look at this photograph of the president meeting with principal officers of the Senate and House of Representatives. State House, and I take you back to a comment you made 2nd of April 2016. We're determined to get things done properly. The Nigeria all shares down 13.33% this year, and obviously they are facing an ejection from the Frontier Index. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 7.79% so far this year. Gallup Global Report 2015 ranks Rwanda as the safest place to walk at night in Africa, 5th globally. Flame Tree Group reported full-year profit after tax increased 16.798%. Revenue was up 29.368%. Earnings per share was up 15.789%. No dividend from an accompanying hard copy release that Fred picked up for me. Group revenue up 29%, EPS is saying up 37%, but I'm not sure that's correct. Manufacturing vertical is 75% of total revenue. CEO Harold Bangera, we have made considerable progress on our strategic plans to generate an 86% increase in our normalized operating profits. The acquisitions made in foods, snacks and cosmetics capped off the full year 2015 really well for us. Acquisitions doubled the size of the food portfolio. Annual net sales for the full year were up 29%. Strong earnings, good headline growth, and a very clearly defined strategy, in my view. Put up a photograph that someone tweeted earlier, Flame Tree themselves tweeted, of Burbage and a couple of others at that early morning. Its release, I had to miss it because my car did not start on time. Co-op Bank. This has responded to a document being circulated. This has been posted by their admin group, and it's all around the shareholding that various folks received 8 years back in 2008 at the time of the IPO. And there's some allegations being thrown around. It's obviously put pressure on the share price. Have a look at the chart. Co-op Bank trades on a price-earnings ratio of 8.3. And was one of the fastest expanding banks through last year. Gideon Muriuki is the CEO, Group Managing Director. I'll put up his photograph. Nairobi all share back at scratch for the year. NSE 20, it's minus 0.69% year to date. If you wish to track the markets in real time, then just register on rich.co.ke, get a password, it's free. Any problems, get hold of us, Twitter or whichever way you choose, and we'll take it from there, and you can just plug yourself in and leave it running and keep an eye on things. Because there's plenty to keep an eye on. And Chase Bank has also reopened today, so let's see how KCB reacts at the stock market to that news. Once again, thank you for stopping by.